Holt.
Speaker, I rise tonight to discuss threats to the work of essential community organisations in my electorate, such as the Casey-Cardinia Legal Service, Peninsula Community Legal Service, the Cranbourne Information Support Service and the Casey North Community Information Support Service, that provide indispensable support and assistance to local residents. In the rapidly growing outer suburbs of Holt, in the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne, there's an ongoing need for services provided by these local community organisations. In Holt, we have a constant challenge with new housing estates being built. The Cranbourne Eastern Clyde area is the fastest growing region in Australia. However, social infrastructure often is not keeping up with this explosive population growth. So at a time when local community organisations in Holt are crying out for additional support to deal with the growing demand for their services, I am incredibly disturbed to hear that the Turnbull government is actively threatening cuts to the funding of these organisations. On the 1st of July 2017, in just 3 months, the Casey-Cardinia Community Legal Centre, led by Vera Hardiman, and the Peninsula Community Legal Service, led by CEO Jackie Galloway, will be forced to turn away local residents due to the funding cuts inflicted by the Turnbull government. The Casey-Cardinia Community Legal Service and the Peninsula Community Legal Service help thousands of local residents in need of free legal advice and assistance. They are on the front line in the battle against domestic violence and assist people with problems as diverse as Centrelink debt, CityLink fines, tenancy disputes and employment issues. The Casey-Cardinia Legal and Community Legal and its dedicated staff and volunteers have been assisting and supporting our local community for 40 years through its 2 offices in Dandenong and Narre Warren. The Peninsula Community Legal Service has been working in the local community since 1977, particularly through its local office in Cranbourne. However, it's reported that both legal centres are now set to lose 30% of their funding, which would seriously jeopardise their ability to operate. When in government, Labor delivered an extra $400,000 to the Casey-Cardinia Community Legal Service over 4 years. Now this government is taking the funding away at a time when there is growing need for the services provided by both legal centres. The Casey-Cardinia Community Legal Service last year provided 15,000 forms of legal advice, 2,000 ongoing cases, 900 family court matters, 100 other court matters and 40 community talks and presentations. If anything, these centres need additional funding, not less. At the same time that our local community legal centres are about to suffer funding cuts, the Cranbourne Information Support Service and the Casey North Community Information Support Service are being asked by the Department of Social Services to respond to a discussion paper on the future redesign of the financial wellbeing and capability activity funding, which they believe actually could lead to more cuts to their funding in 2018. The Australian government provides about $100 million each under the Financial Wellbeing and Capability Activity to fund services like the Cranbourne Information Support Service and the Casey North Information Support Service, so that they can provide the much-needed advice and support to alleviate financial stress and hardship and improve life outcomes for people in our region. Under the plans to redesign the Financial Wellbeing and Capability Activity funding, Leanne Petrides, for example, from the Cranbourne Information Support Service, is concerned about how the centre will be able to continue to provide an effective and dignified service to extremely vulnerable people who live under intense financial hardship under the proposed new conditions, or the funding model. Leanne Petrides has stated that under these new conditions, organisations are being asked how will they work to maximise people's income and decrease their expenditure. However, for example, when someone's on New Start and they're paying 80% of their income on rent, this is difficult to achieve. Leanne is concerned that when the local workforce is becoming increasingly casualised and families are suffering cuts to payments, it doesn't take much for a family in our region to need financial support. If someone loses a part of their income and can no longer pay for their car registration or keep up with paying bills or rates, they are forced to rely on local services like Cranbourne for financial support. Over the last year, the Cranbourne Information Support Service has provided over 15,000 services or occasions to 10,000 households. Emergency relief was the most utilised service, with over 6,400 requests for assistance, with housing, transport and cost of living expenses driving the most requests for support. Whilst the Department of Social Services has stated that the overhaul of funding does not mean an overall nationwide cut to funding, it also does not mean that individual local organisations like those in my electorate of Holt won't be receiving a funding cut in 2018. All of these services, Speaker, provide a much-needed support for the community. They need to be supported, not to have their funding cut, and I would urge the government to reconsider these funding cuts.
The member